My boss sent flowers to my wife by mistake. Now I found the messages he meant to send her. I'm a 36-year-old man, and last Friday, my boss sent my wife flowers. At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. My wife, Sarah, texted me a photo around noon while I was at work. A bouquet of red roses, a sleek black envelope, a neat cream-colored card. She wrote, "On this just showed up at the house. From your boss." I stared at the screen, confused. My boss, Lionel, is a high-powered, polished kind of guy. He's not warm. He's not the kind to send flowers. Hell, he barely remembers people's birthdays unless they're clients. But there it was, his name, his company's logo on the card, and one sentence that made my stomach twist: "To the most unforgettable woman I've ever known, L." I left my desk, stepped into the hallway, and called her immediately. Sarah answered right away, voice tight. "What the hell is this, Rob?" "I have no idea," I said, and I meant it. "Is there any chance it's a mistake? A PR thing? Maybe he sends flowers to spouses sometimes. To the most unforgettable woman he's ever known," she snapped. "Does that sound like a casual thank you?" She was right. It didn't. I told her not to touch anything, and that I'd come home early. When I got there, the flowers were still on the table, perfectly arranged. Too perfect. Sarah sat across from them, arms folded, expression unreadable. I picked up the card again. It was real. No sign of a joke. No corporate branding or printed generic note. Just handwriting. Personal. "Do you think he sent this to the wrong person?" she asked. I didn't answer, because I was already remembering something from weeks ago. A staff dinner at a hotel downtown. Lionel had been drinking, which he rarely does. At some point during dessert, he leaned over and asked, "So how's your wife? You've shown me photos, but you never bring her to events." I laughed and said something like, "She's too normal for these kinds of nights." He smiled. "She sounds like a breath of fresh air." At the time, I thought he was just making conversation. Now, I wasn't so sure. That night, while Sarah was in the shower, I checked the flowers for any kind of receipt or slip. Nothing. But I noticed the envelope had been sealed with a small silver sticker, the kind we use at the office for high-level correspondence. It wasn't something a florist would randomly use. This didn't come from a shop. It came from the office. My heart started pounding. I logged into my work email and scrolled through recent messages. Nothing odd. But then I had a thought. Lionel had recently gotten a new assistant. Someone young and untrained. If he had used his company account to send something personal, and she'd helped, maybe there was a trail. I searched his name and keywords like flower, card, delivery. Nothing came up. But then I realized something else. Our internal server had a temporary shared folder for marketing and logistics. Sometimes, staff uploaded drafts or print requests there for Lionel's signature. I opened it, and there it was. A Word doc, titled, Card, 11/28 L. I clicked it. My blood ran cold. "I'll never forget the way you looked that night. The green dress. That laugh. You said it was just once, but I can't stop thinking about you. I don't care what happens. I want to see you again. I'll make it work. Tell me when." I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. He wasn't just flirting. He was following up on something that already happened. I opened the Properties tab of the file. It had been created on Wednesday, modified Thursday afternoon by his assistant Logan, sent Friday morning to my wife. I closed the laptop slowly, walked into the bedroom, and just stood there. Sarah was brushing her hair, towel wrapped around her. She looked up, saw my face, and froze. "What?" she asked. "What is it?" I swallowed hard. "Did you ever see Lionel outside of my work stuff?" Her eyes widened. "What? No. Ever talk to him? Text him? Anything at all?" She shook her head immediately. "No. Why would I? I don't even have his number." I didn't show her the file. Not yet. Because I needed to be absolutely sure. Because if Lionel meant to send those flowers to someone else, it meant my wife wasn't just the recipient of a mistake. She might have been one of several. And if it wasn't a mistake, then she had lied straight to my face. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing, slow, even, innocent, or pretending to be. Every noise in the house suddenly felt exaggerated. Every creak a warning. Every shift in the bed a jolt of paranoia. Around 3 a.m. I got up, quietly. I crept into the living room, turned on my laptop again, and reopened the folder on the server. The message was still there. Same timestamp. Same document. But something about it kept nagging at me. The phrase, "Tell me when." It wasn't vague. It was expectant. Like someone who's waiting on a plan. A confirmation. So I did something I'd never done before. I opened Sarah's phone. It was on the charger by the couch. Unlocked. No password. She'd never needed one before. I hesitated. I didn't want to be that husband, but I also didn't want to be the last to know. what everyone else already did. I opened her messages. Nothing from Lionel. I searched for his name. Nothing. Then I tried his initials. L. Still nothing. But then I remembered. Sarah wasn't a texter. She emailed. For everything. She used Gmail on her phone. I opened the app. Searched. Lionel. At first, just newsletter stuff. Old forwarded jokes from me. Then I found one. A message with no subject. Sent from a personal Gmail address. It was good. Seeing you again. Same place next Thursday. Sent 2 weeks ago. From Lionel. Her reply. That was a one-time mistake. Please don't contact me again. My blood went cold. So it wasn't nothing. It wasn't just flowers. Something had happened. I scrolled back. There were only 3 total messages in that thread. The first was from Lionel. Dated over a month ago. I haven't stopped thinking about you. You were incredible. I know we shouldn't have. But I don't regret it. Her reply. You're married. I'm married. This was a mistake. Then the one after that. Him asking to meet again. Her shutting it down. I sat back, staring at the screen, unsure if I felt relief or rage. She hadn't encouraged it. But she hadn't told me either. She had slept with my boss. At least once. And never said a word. And now he was sending her flowers. Love letters disguised as thank you notes. And I was the fool still wondering if it was a mistake. I put her phone back and sat on the edge of the couch until the sun came up. I felt sick. She'd lied. Maybe not actively, but by omission. She let me make coffee for her that morning, smiling, kissing me goodbye, while knowing that somewhere in the city, Lionel was writing her messages about green dresses and secret meetings. Around 7 a.m., she walked into the kitchen in her bathrobe, yawning. You're up early, she said. I just looked at her. She poured coffee, oblivious. And I couldn't take it anymore. I saw the emails, I said. Her hand froze mid-pour. What emails? From Lionel. To you. About whatever happened between you, too. She turned slowly, like her spine had turned to glass. That was months ago, she said softly. I didn't respond after the last one. You slept with him, I said. It wasn't a question. She looked away. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered. It was after that event you skipped. The one where you had food poisoning. He offered me a ride home. Don't. I snapped. Don't turn this into a logistics excuse. I was drunk. It was a bad judgment call. He kissed me and, she stopped. It was one night. One night, I repeated, like the words were acid on my tongue. I regretted it immediately, she said. I blocked his number. I told him it couldn't happen again. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did, I said. You hurt me the second you didn't tell me. She covered her mouth with her hand. Tears filled her eyes. But I didn't care. I couldn't. Because now everything felt tainted. Every moment. Every memory from the last 6 months. Was that why she didn't want to come to my office party? Why she skipped dinner with my coworkers? Why she was suddenly more distant in bed? You Sholvi told me, I said. Not because I deserved the truth, but because you claimed to love me. I do love you, she cried. Not enough, I said. I walked out. No shoes. No coat. Just keys and rage. And for the first time since I met Sarah, I didn't know if I would ever come back. I drove aimlessly for hours, through neighborhoods I didn't know, past gas stations, office parks, places I couldn't name. My phone buzzed dozens of times. I didn't look. I didn't want to see her name. I didn't want more explanations or apologies or emotional hostages. I just wanted silence. Eventually, I parked in an empty lot behind an abandoned diner, killed the engine, sat there with the windows cracked, watching the wind push an empty fast food cup across the asphalt. I couldn't get the image out of my head. Lionel's hand on her back, her lips on his. My wife, the woman I built a life with, shared a mortgage with, slept beside for nearly 10 years. And him, the man who signs my paychecks, who toasted me at my promotion dinner last year, who smiled at me across countless meetings, while secretly planning ways to get her alone. It wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation, and I couldn't stop thinking about what might be happened if that flower delivery had never gone wrong. If the assistant hadn't slipped up, would Sarah have ever told me? Or would she have kept pretending, kissing me goodbye every morning while burying that night like a body in the backyard? Around noon, I checked into a cheap hotel off the freeway. I didn't have a bag, just my wallet and phone. The woman at the desk looked at me like she'd seen this before. A man with bloodshot eyes and no luggage. She gave me a room without asking questions. Inside, I lay on the stiff mattress and stared at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above me. I hadn't cried. I hadn't yelled. I was beyond that. What I felt now was worse. Nothing. A kind of emotional paralysis. I stayed there all day, ignored every call. Around 10 p.m., I finally opened my messages. 28 from Sarah. Some short, please. Call me Rob. Some long, I'm sorry. I didn't want this to come out like that. I wanted to protect you. I know that sounds backwards, but I was ashamed. I still am. I don't even know how to look you in the eye. She didn't deny it. She didn't minimize it. But it didn't matter. Because the damage wasn't just the act, it was the lie that followed. I turned off my phone again, slept with it under the pillow like a weapon. The next morning, I drove to the office. Not for work, for Lionel. He was in his glass-walled office, on the phone, pacing. He saw me. I didn't knock. I walked in. He hung up mid-sentence. Rob. I shut the door behind me. I know, I said. He froze. I know everything. The emails. The card. The flowers. He closed his eyes for a second, took a breath, then said, I'm sorry. You should be. He nodded. It was never meant to go that far. It was a stupid mistake. I crossed a line. I've already spoken to HR. This isn't about HR. I interrupted. This is about you. And me. And the fact that you destroyed any respect I ever had for you. He looked down. I know. I trusted you. I said. You were my mentor, my friend, and you looked me in the eye every day while plotting how to get in my wife's bed. I didn't plan it like that, he said. It wasn't calculated. It happened. Once. And I regretted it immediately. Do you regret it? Or do you just regret that the flowers went to the wrong address? Silence. That told me everything. I'm done, I said. He blinked. What do you mean? I'm resigning. Effective immediately. Rob, don't be rash. You've built something here. Don't throw it away over. You already threw it away, I said. I'm just not cleaning up after you. I walked out, left my badge on the desk. That was it. 10 years of climbing, 10 years of loyalty, gone in 5 minutes, and I didn't feel regret. I felt clean, free. I called Sarah from the parking lot. She answered on the first ring. I quit, I said. She didn't respond right away. Where are you? She asked. I'll come home when I'm ready. Please let me see you. I don't know if I can. Can we talk? Somewhere neutral. 1 hour. Just one. I'll answer anything. I hesitated, then said, okay. We agreed on a cafe halfway between the house and the city. I didn't know if I was going to yell or cry, or walk out, but I knew one thing. She owed me the full truth, and I was finally ready to hear it. I got there early, 15 minutes early, actually. I wanted to sit, to watch the door, to get control of my breathing before she arrived. It was a small cafe, quiet, tucked between an art supply store and a hair salon, the kind of place we used to go on Sundays, before all of this. The waitress asked if I wanted anything. I ordered a black coffee. No sugar, no cream, something bitter, something honest. Sarah walked in 5 minutes late. She looked tired, not messy, not guilty in the soap opera kind of way, just hollow. Her shoulders were tense, her hair tied back like she hadn't had the energy to do much with herself. She sat down without a word. Didn't order anything? We stared at each other for a moment. Then I said, so talk. She nodded slowly, folded her hands on the table, and took a breath. I was lonely, she started. That's not an excuse. Just the truth. You were always working, always late, always exhausted. I know that's because you were building something, for both of us. But I felt invisible. So you slept with my boss, I said, not raising my voice. She winced. It didn't happen like that. We talked at the fundraiser. He was kind, present. He made me feel like I mattered again. It was one night, just one. But after that, I hated myself. I felt sick. I couldn't eat. I couldn't look at you. And yet, you didn't say anything. I was afraid. I thought I could bury it, pretend it never happened. I thought it would go away. I leaned back. Did you ever plan to tell me? Or was the flower mix-up the only reason I know? She hesitated too long. That was my answer. No, she admitted. I wouldn't have told you. I was trying to protect what we had left. What we had left, I repeated. You mean the part you already shattered? Her eyes watered. She nodded. You didn't protect anything, I said. You made a decision that broke us. And then you lied about it. Every day. For months. I didn't want to lose you. You already did. She looked down. For the first time, I think it hit her. Not the guilt. Not the shame. The finality. I asked, are you in love with him? No, she said instantly. God, no. It wasn't about him. It was about me feeling like I mattered. And I didn't make you feel that way. Not for a long time. She whispered. You were so consumed by your job. By him. Everything about our lives started revolving around Lionel. And then it happened, and I hated that it made me feel alive again. The honesty of it stung. Not because I hadn't noticed the distance between us, but because she'd filled that distance with something so final, so unforgivable. I asked the last question I had in me. If I hadn't found that card, would you still be smiling at me every morning like nothing happened? She wiped her cheek. Probably, I nodded. Then I can't trust anything anymore. Not your words, not your smile, not even our memories. She reached across the table. Rob, I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Counseling, space, whatever you need. I didn't take her hand, because I didn't know what I needed. I just knew it wasn't this. Not anymore. I stood up, left enough cash to cover the coffee. She didn't follow me out. She just sat there, staring at her hands, like they still belonged to the version of herself she used to be. I drove back to the hotel, packed up my bag. I didn't go home. Not yet. I booked an Airbnb outside the city for a week, somewhere quiet, by the water. I needed time, not to think about forgiveness, but to figure out who I am without her, without them, because somewhere along the way, I lost myself. And I'm finally ready to find out who's left. The Airbnb was a tiny cabin by a lake. Nothing fancy. One bedroom, a worn leather armchair, a kitchenette, a view of the water through tall pine trees. The kind of place you go to remember how to breathe. I didn't tell anyone I was there. Not my friends. Not my parents. Definitely not Sarah. I turned off my phone, left my laptop zipped inside my duffel. No distractions. Just silence. The first day, I slept for almost 12 hours. My body was exhausted in a way I hadn't realized, like it had been holding tension for months without permission. The second day, I sat by the water for hours, throwing rocks and watching the ripples. The third day, I cried, quietly, angrily, in the shower. Not for her, not even for him, for the version of myself I'd spent a decade building around a future that no longer existed. It's strange how betrayal fractures your identity. It's not just, my wife cheated. It's, I didn't see it. I believed her. I defended her. It's, what else have I been wrong about? You start rethinking everything, replaying conversations in your head, wondering if a smile was fake, if a hug meant less than you thought, if love was ever real, or just convenience wrapped in routine. On the fourth night, I finally checked my phone. 10 missed calls, a few from unknown numbers. One from Lionel, which I deleted without reading. 6 voicemails from Sarah. I didn't listen to any of them. Just seeing her name felt like reopening a wound. There was one text, though, from her. Just one sentence. I'm moving out of the house for now. I left my key on the counter. That was it. No guilt. No poetry. Just facts. I didn't reply. The next morning, I drove back into the city. Not to see her, to see the house. My house. The one we picked together 5 years ago. The one I painted, renovated, loved. I pulled into the driveway slowly, unsure what I'd feel. Anger, sadness, grief. But I felt nothing, just distance. Inside, the air was stale, too clean, like something had been scrubbed away. Her shoes were gone, her coat from the hook, no toothbrush by the sink. I walked into the bedroom. My side of the bed was untouched. Hers was stripped. A note on the pillow. I won't ask you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. I just hope you find peace. You always gave me more love than I knew what to do with. I folded the note and put it in the drawer. Not because I needed to keep it, but because I wasn't ready to throw it out yet. I spent the rest of the afternoon packing her remaining things. Not in anger, just methodically. Her books, her mugs, her favorite blanket. I stacked the boxes in the garage, called a storage company, arranged for a pickup. That night, I slept in the center of the bed. First time in 10 years. It felt wrong. It also felt honest. In the morning, I walked into the kitchen, made coffee, and sat at the table alone. No flowers, no lies, no pretending, just me and the silence I'd earned. And then my phone buzzed. It was an email from HR. Subject line, confidential inquiry, professional conduct allegation. I opened it. Apparently, I wasn't the only one. Lionel had been reported by another employee. Inappropriate communication, manipulation, crossing boundaries. There was an internal investigation. They were reaching out to former staff for statements. And they asked me, gently, if I'd be willing to talk about any personal knowledge or experience relevant to the matter. I stared at the screen. I thought of Sarah, of that card, of the night I found the file, of the emails. And then I thought of every woman at my office who might have smiled politely while being cornered in an elevator. I hit reply, and I wrote, yes, I'd like to talk. The HR interview took place over Zoom 3 days later. A woman named Mia conducted it, firm but kind, maybe mid-40s, with the calm tone of someone who'd heard far worse and still knew how to listen. She thanked me for my time, reassured me that anything I shared would remain confidential unless I explicitly approved otherwise. And then she asked the question I'd been dreading. Did you witness or experience any inappropriate behavior involving Lionel, personally or through someone close to you? I took a breath. Yes, I said, through my wife. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, but she didn't interrupt. I told her everything. The fundraiser, the affair, the emails, the flowers, the assistant who must be sent the wrong card, the message I found on the company's server, the timeline, the emotional manipulation. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't downplay it either. I just gave her the truth, the ugly, unbelievable, deeply personal truth. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, you're not the only one who's mentioned messages. We've had 3 other employees come forward with similar patterns. 2 junior staffers. 1 former intern. I felt sick. It hadn't just been me. Or Sarah. He'd been doing this for years, using power and charm and subtle pressure to blur lines. And none of us saw it clearly until it was too late. Mia thanked me again, asked if I would be open to a written statement. I said yes. That night, I wrote it all down. For the 3rd time in a month, I documented the worst days of my life. But this time, it felt different. Less like bleeding, more like disinfecting a wound. 2 days later, I got an email. Lionel had been placed on immediate leave pending the outcome of the investigation. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled, quietly. And for the first time, the air didn't feel so heavy. A week passed. Then 2. Sarah didn't reach out. I didn't either. The silence between us became its own kind of language. An acknowledgement of the dead space, where something used to live. Then one day, she sent a letter, a real one, in an envelope. My name handwritten on the front. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside, it said, Rob, I know I've lost the right to ask for anything, but I need you to hear this, at least once, without interruption. I was wrong. Weak. Selfish. But the night it happened with Lionel, it didn't feel like passion. It felt like erasing myself. I wasn't trying to cheat on you. I was trying to disappear. And that doesn't justify anything. It just explains how broken I had let myself become. You didn't fail me. I failed you. I betrayed us. And I will carry that forever. If you ever want to talk, really talk, I'm here. And if not, I'll understand. I love you. Even now. Sarah. I folded the letter and put it in the drawer beside the note she'd left on our bed weeks ago. Not because I forgave her, but because part of me still needed to remember what she looked like in words, not betrayal. I didn't respond. Not right away. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I didn't know what version of myself I was becoming without her. And I wasn't ready to invite her into someone I hadn't even met yet. Another month passed. Spring began to push its way into the city, slowly, like it wasn't sure it was welcome. The trees in my street started to bloom again, little by little, and I found myself doing something I hadn't done in weeks, noticing. I'd walk past a bakery and smell the bread. I'd hear music from a car window and feel something shift. I wasn't healed, but I was coming back to life. I started running again. I'd stopped back when the panic was constant, when I couldn't take 10 steps without a memory crashing into me. But now I needed movement. Something physical, something mine. Every morning, I ran through the park and let my feet pound the path until the noise in my head got quiet. One day, during one of those runs, I saw a woman sitting on a bench with her dog. She looked up and smiled at me, not flirtatiously, not suggestively, just a smile, like I existed again, like I wasn't invisible. And for a second, that simple connection did more than any letter or apology ever could. It reminded me that the world hadn't ended, only that version of it had. That night, I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I started writing, not to HR this time, not to Sarah, not to Lionel, just for me. A document titled, What I Know Now. No structure, no plan, just truths. Here's what I wrote. People lie when they're afraid, even to the ones they love. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and well-dressed. Love can survive a lot, but not without honesty. You can lose everything and still find something better on the other side. Healing isn't linear. Some days you'll laugh, others you'll break. Both are real. Forgiveness is optional. Boundaries are not. I closed the laptop and felt something lift. Not gone, but lighter. 2 days later, Sarah texted again. The first message since the letter. It simply said, Could we meet? I'd like to return some of your things. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't know what she meant by my things. I hadn't asked for anything back, and I wasn't sure I wanted anything else from her. But something in me said yes. We met at a cafe. Different one this time. Neutral. Again. She looked thinner, paler, more grounded. She handed me a small box. Inside, a photo of me and my dad she'd framed years ago, a watch I thought I'd lost, and a necklace I once gave her. Mine. Originally, my grandmother's. I don't want to keep this, she said. It doesn't feel right. I nodded. Thank you. We sat in silence. Then she asked, Are you okay? I'm better, I said. Are you seeing anyone? No, I replied. Not yet. She nodded like she was both relieved and disappointed. I've started therapy, she said. Twice a week. It's hard. Good, I said. I hope it helps. I don't expect anything, she said, voice trembling. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. I looked at her, really looked, and realized something important. She was no longer my Sarah. And that wasn't cruel. It wasn't even sad. It was just true. She belonged to a version of my life that had ended, and I no longer needed to cling to it like a lifeboat. We talked a little longer. Nothing dramatic. No pleading. No closure speech. Just two people who once built something real and broke it. When we stood to leave, she looked at me and said, "I still love you." I took a breath and said, "I know." And then I walked away. Not in anger. Not in bitterness. Just with quiet acceptance. Because sometimes, the strongest thing you can do isn't fighting to fix what's broken. It's learning to live without it. A week after that last meeting, I deleted the folder where I had saved the emails, the photos, the screenshots, the proof. I had been keeping them like war trophies, evidence of the pain, reminders of the betrayal, but I realized they weren't helping me heal. They were just anchors, holding me in a place I no longer wanted to live in. So I let them go, not out of forgiveness, but because I didn't want to be the man who defined himself by what had been done to him. I've started writing again. Nothing serious. Just small essays, journal entries, observations about life, grief, survival. I joined a writer's group, actually, once a week. In the back of a bookstore, we share pages in silence and coffee. It's the first space I've felt truly anonymous in since everything collapsed. There's a woman in the group named Tessa. She writes about loneliness, about aging parents and complicated love. She's kind, curious. She doesn't know what happened to me. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But when she laughed at something I said the other night, really laughed, I felt something crack open inside me. Something warm. Something alive. I'm not rushing into anything. I don't even know if it's romantic. I just know it feels honest. And right now, that's more than enough. Sarah and I haven't spoken since that day at the cafe. She hasn't reached out. Neither have I. And that silence, for once, feels mutual. Not avoidance. Not fear. Just space. Clean space where something broken used to sit. I think we both know there's nothing more to say. We said it all. And we lived the rest. As for Lionel, he resigned before the investigation concluded. Word spread quietly. No public scandal. No press. Just an internal memo and a new name on the door. I heard through a former coworker that he moved cities. I don't know where. I don't care. He's no longer my boss. No longer in my orbit. Just a cautionary tale I carry with me. The house is mine now. Officially. The paperwork went through last week. I repainted the bedroom. New sheets. New shelves. No ghosts. Just light. I've started putting photos back up. Not of us. Just me. My parents. My friends. The people who stayed. The ones who didn't lie. I'm not over it. I don't know if I ever will be. But I've stopped bleeding. The wound is still there. But it's healing. Bit by bit. And some days, I even forget it's there until I catch a glimpse of something. Flowers in a shop window. The smell of her perfume on someone else. And it stings. But I don't collapse anymore. Because I know who I am now. I'm the man who walked away. Who let go of the rope. Who chose himself. And no matter what anyone says, no matter how messy or painful or humiliating that choice was, it was the right one. I don't know what comes next, but I'm finally okay with that. I'm finally okay with me, even if I still have days where I wake up and feel the weight of everything I lost. I've learned something simple, and maybe that's enough. Not every story ends with justice, or revenge, or perfect redemption. Sometimes it just ends, and you begin. Follow me for more stories.